What, in your view, was behind this?
I think a key part behind this, of course, is Venezuela's oil. And it's not necessarily for the U.S.'s own consumption, but rather for the U.S.'s ability to have a greater control over the global oil markets. One thing that is much clearer from the Trump administration than it would have been from any other administration is that this is absolutely not about democracy. This is not about the well-being of the Venezuelan people. This is not about their freedoms or anything like that. Trump mentioned oil plenty of times. He mentioned democracy 0 times, human rights 0 times, and previous motivations or justifications or pretexts such as fentanyl, etc., is also largely erased from the government narrative at this point.
Trita, if this is about oil, and we do know that Venezuela's oil production is not what it can be, it needs infrastructure, it needs investment. That kind of investment would take years, probably 5 to 10 years before it could get to full production. So what does that mean for the United States? And can the United States control that production of oil without having its military there?
Well, on the first point, it goes back to what I said. This is not about the U.S.'s own consumption. This is not about specific oil prices at the moment. It's the larger long-term perspective in terms of being able to have greater control over the oil that other countries, particularly rivals of the United States, would be consuming. And this is if we take a look at it from that pure geopolitical calculation that I believe the administration has made. And personally, I find that nevertheless to be highly problematic, not only because on a principle level, regime change or efforts of this kind to govern other countries is just simply wrong. And in consequence, we've also seen that this has been tremendously difficult and oftentimes backfired when the U.S. has done this in other places. And I think we should also remind ourselves that all of these other failed regime change efforts actually looked like successes in the short term. Iraq looked like a success for 6 months or so. Libya did so for a short while as well. Afghanistan as well. So the idea that, you know, this euphoria that currently exists because the military aspect of this was very, very successful does not in any way, shape, or form indicate that the rest of this is going to be successful and not backfire in the manner that Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan certainly did backfire, not only for the United States, but for the regions that those countries are in.
What is the broader message that this assault on Venezuela sends to the rest of the world and to the region as well? The initial response from European allies was very muted. That's allies of the United States, was very muted. But then we did see some more forceful statements being made at that UN Security Council meeting, which took place on Monday. But how do you think this will be seen around the world?
Well, first of all, the administration is trying to send is to say that the U.S. is now a full hegemon of the Western Hemisphere, that this is a hemisphere that the United States is going to keep its focus on. It is not abandoning empire, it's just abandoning the old contours of the empire, going from global hegemony to hemispheric hegemony. This, of course, will be of a tremendous concern, not just for a lot of the countries in South America who do not want to be under American or anyone else's hegemony, but also in the sense that it will signal to the, particularly to Europe, that the U.S. is now embracing a form of spheres of influence. What I think should be concerning to the world as a whole is that, you know, this erosion of international law is tremendously dangerous. I don't think we will fully appreciate what international law has delivered in terms of stability and peace for the world until we actually lose it. And we are now very close to losing it because of actions like this. And it is actually thanks to international law and the fact that after the signing of the UN Charter in 1945, and which the territorial bans were prohibited, that we saw a dramatic decrease. I mean, not a single country has lost, has essentially been wiped off the map through conquest since then. We've seen a significant drop in the number of the amount of territory that has been lost as a result of conquest, a 95% drop. So we lived in a completely different world prior to this, in which actually violent conquest was accepted. And those countries that could do so essentially asserted a right to be able to control new territory. This is the world that we will be returning to if we completely abandon international law, allow it to be eroded in the manner that it currently unfortunately is.
Trita Parsi, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.